a stranger with a gun came upon two teens taking pictures under a rising full moon. But violence is only the beginning of this story.
Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and I've spent my career talking about how lives are undone by violence. The Letter is a podcast about how lives are remade. Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
So you're listening to Lorie Warburton here on Project Recovery. She shared her story in the first part, and just to recap it, abuse started at 5, went until she was 10, first drink at 14, married at 17, divorced, ex-husband tried to commit suicide not once but twice, went through another failed marriage, 7 years, kind of without anybody in your home, and you just kind of stayed in your apartment drinking, and that's when you said the wheels fell off. Now, Dr. Matt, to me, that seems like a very horrible, tragic start to your life.
Yeah, I appreciate all the detail that you're willing to share with everyone. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to a lot of different aspects of your story. My thought was that, when you lost your mother, you probably lost a sense of yourself that never really developed for yourself as a child. Often when children have regular abuse as a child, their sense of identity, who they are, kind of a grounded sense of self, doesn't fully develop. And I believe it sounds like perhaps your connection with your mother sort of replaced and helped you have some sense of who you were, despite the fact that through your young and middle adult life you were going through a lot of abusive intimate relationships. And then the loss of your mother probably was a loss of yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yes, to a certain point. More or less, she was kind of the spokes, the wheel that hold everybody together. And once she died, all of us went our separate directions. And I mean, when I say everybody went away, they just did, And so I felt really lonely, kind of just like she was the only one who really understood.
She was your anchor.
Yeah.
So you find yourself drinking in your apartment and the wheels came off. What does that look like? Well,
what that looks like is I'm drinking myself into convulsions at times. And I am hating every day since September 4th. That's when she passed away. And so since that time until January, because all the holidays come after that, and she was a huge part of all of that, I just didn't want to go on. I didn't want holidays to come. I didn't want any of that. So I'm very outgoing, and I want to be around people, and I love people very, very much. And I just secluded myself. And so sometimes I'd call the ambulance on myself because I didn't want anybody to know what I was going through, because I would go into these convulsions and things. It was really, really scary. And anyway, one day I come to this crossroads in my life, and I don't know if you guys have ever been there or not, but they talk about it in songs and everything. And I actually got to witness for myself what that was, because I couldn't go backwards and I couldn't go forwards. I was just like, what am I doing? I was looking back on my life and I was like, wow, I mean, what a train wreck. I've had 6 abusive relationships. I've drugged my family through all kinds of crap. I had one son who came to my home and told me that I was no longer his mother, that he hated me and was never going to talk to me again, and he didn't for 4 years. I had grandkids, and it was a really, really difficult time. And so I started going, wait a minute, I need to pick some different choices here. But instead of taking responsibility for my own actions and everything like this, again, I think, well, I need a different type of a guy, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is 7 years by myself, and I think, oh, finally, I'm going to choose someone I've never chose before. He's going to be not big, tall, and strong. I'm not going to go for the outward look and everything. What I'm going to do is start looking from the inside. And maybe that's my problem. So what I did was I went to go get in my car because I needed some more vodka. And I had this little angel on this side and the devil on this side. Don't go to the liquor store. Do go to the liquor store. Don't do. And about 20 minutes of that, I gave in and I went. And that's where I met my next husband.
Is this number 3?
So my final husband. I don't want to say what number it was, but
Okay.
I've been married several times.
I DJ weddings if you ever need one.
So the reason I'm bringing this up, I used to be embarrassed about this, so I'll just throw it out there that this was my 7th marriage.
Oh.
Okay. So that's why I didn't want to say, but you know,
We run an honest program.
yeah, that's exactly right. So he was my 7th husband, and I thought he was a man of God. That he
At the liquor store?
I know. Now listen, not at the liquor store, but later on, you know, after we had begun talking and I got to know him a little bit, I didn't give him my phone number while I was in the store or anything, but he talked me into it when I came out. And anyway, we started talking, and once I actually went over to his home, I never left. So here's my codependency starting again because I haven't taken care of the original problem, right? So I go over there, and I literally thought he was a wonderful person. You know, I didn't see any signs of abuse. He was very soft-spoken, very kind. My family even liked him. And once I got in there and we were serious and everything, and I let everybody know, that's when the nightmare started. So what started happening then was he took away my Facebook first, and in steps this happened. Then he started isolating me from my family and didn't want me talking to them. He made me quit my job because the real reason was he didn't want me working around men, but he had told me that it was because he had well enough to take care of us and that I'd work long enough, so I might as well stay home. And I thought, wow, that sounds kind of nice for a change, you know, because I've worked really hard my whole life since I was very young, even though I was, you know, in these situations and married and that. But, you know, Sorry.
No, you're fine.
That's when I started losing my sense of identity, like you said. Because first of all, he told me his wife made him feel like less than a man. He wasn't divorced yet, by the way, so I helped him through a divorce. With me being off work, you know, I was able to do quite a bit for him, and I was just constantly wanting to make him the king. With all my love, he's going to change. He's going to be wonderful. He's going to do this. Well, we were drinking a lot. You know, he drank. I was drinking too. And in the midst of all of this, the abuse started too, the hitting and all of this. And all of a sudden, I'm being accused of sleeping with the neighbors because he's at work now. I wasn't allowed to go to the grocery store on my own or anything. He started following me around.
Controlling. He was controlling you.
There were police called and this and that, and so many embarrassing moments. So what happened, you guys, is I just made a decision because I thought, if this is all that life has to offer me at this time, I am out of here. So I decided that I was going to drink myself to death, that I was just going to do that. And I stopped eating, and that's all I did. All I did was drink.
And your intention was suicide by alcohol?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. At least I wouldn't have to feel anything because he was still hurting and abusing me sexually, physically, and emotionally as well. You know, no means no, but it didn't mean no to him, and he could do whatever he wanted. So these things, they're really graphic, so I don't want to explain them, but, you know, I've been with guns held to my head in the closet. I've had my head used as a golf ball, as a big Bertha golf club was swung and hit into my head. You know, these types of things. So
it's really awful abuse.
Yeah, just so that's why I want to just say that. But more than anything, it's like I even sold my mother's jewelry that she had left to me so that he could get a divorce because he didn't have anything to his name, and here I'm trying to pick different, but in there I lost my identity, and now I want to die. And so I would have, again, ambulance called on me several times. I also was taking Xanax. After my mom died, I was prescribed that, and I was on it for years. And I was taking overdoses of that, just trying to be gone out of the world. But of course, I'm still here, and I was still there. But the last time I went to the hospital, the doctor told me all my organs are swollen up. I'm swollen up everywhere. I'm no longer eating. I can't keep food down. He said, if you drink again, you will die. And I'm not trying to say this to scare you. He said, you will die. And I just thought, oh, good, because that's what I want. And so, after I went home, of course I drank, and that's what I continued to do. Until one day I walked into the bathroom, and I never liked to look at myself in the mirror. I never got out of bed. I just laid there all the time. This is not me. And I was giving up, and I walked in the bathroom, and I caught a glimpse of myself, and I thought, wow, I'm going to just take a good hard look. So I looked at myself in the mirror, and all there was darkness. I didn't recognize myself at all.
I've been there.
I was like, who is this person? It's happening. I said to myself, it's really happening. So I went back into my room, got in my bed. It was dark in the room all the time. I was still married. I'm still there at the time. But this was a Saturday. My husband was gone to work. And I had the jug of vodka by me. And I took a big drink of that. And I just laid there and I closed my eyes. And what happened was this light came from out of the ceiling and went right on top of me. You guys, didn't know what was going on. Only that light felt so familiar to me. And all of a sudden I started hearing people's voices in my family. Like, I don't want you to die like Aunt Mary did, because she was an alcoholic and died of alcoholism. That was my brother. And I heard my kids' voices, and then I heard my grandchildren's voices, like Grandma, and my kids saying, I love you. And kind of in voices, my life was passing before my eyes. My mom, and I was like, and I'm just with tears down my face. I'm like, what is going on here? And I go, people do love me. I was thinking, who would care if I actually just wasn't here? I've made a mess of everything, and so that's when I reached for the phone and I called for help.
You're listening to Project Recovery. We're listening to Lorie Warburton's story. She's going to tell us who answered when she called for help in just a few seconds.
Two friends taking pictures of the rising full moon on a summer night.
Two teenage kids doing what teenage kids do.
When a stranger with a gun and a death wish changed everything.
It was violent, it was senseless, and I will never understand it. I will never accept it.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and unfortunately, we're all too familiar with stories about how violence shatters lives. But what we rarely see is how they are rebuilt. In a new podcast, The Letter, we relive tragedy, but only so we can hear the rest of the story. The struggle to reclaim lives, the realities of grief, and the possibilities of forgiveness.
I believe in miracles. Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
So, Lorie, you made a call. Who did you call?
So the first person I called was my son, the one that was talking to me, the highway patrolman. He never, ever has given up on me, ever. And I told him, I need some help. Sorry, I get a little emotional. I didn't think that I would. But I said, I need some help. And he said, thank goodness. Mom, like, we wanted to have an intervention with you so many times, but we knew it wouldn't do any good because of where you're at. And I said, well, I am ready to get help. And so what we did is I was able to go and check myself into a treatment program, get detoxed, and then go through that. And you guys, I wanted it so badly that, you know, I knew after going in there, you don't know it until you get there, but, you know, they actually have you get to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem, well, as you know, it was my dad. I mean, I went through those flashbacks. I did all this, but my life, you know, I had to take accountability for myself, you know, too, in all of this. If I really wanted to change and you know, and I wanted to make a difference in the world and do all of the things I've always wanted to do. I've been silenced my entire life, you know, told to shut up, don't have a voice, my opinions don't matter. They do. And I know that now, you know, after going through recovery. And I'm working on, I have almost 4 years. In September, it'll be 4 years sober.
Congratulations. That is amazing. And so what does your aftercare look like? What are you doing to give back, as so many do in the recovery world?
Oh, wow. So, of course, I had aftercare, the meetings that I went to. But what I do is this personally, just sharing my story, getting it out there with everyone. For a little while there, I'm not right now, but I want to start doing it again. I was teaching young girls how to sing to overcome their fears. I'm constantly, right now, I have my homeless brother living with me, who is also an alcoholic, who was once a millionaire. He's living in my home at this time, and believe me, it's been kind of a rough go with all this, everything going on, and he hasn't stayed sober. There was a couple of times. I also want to mention that my other son, this is a real sensitive subject, but he tried to commit suicide here back in October. And talk about, if you're going to test your sobriety and something like that goes on, you know, I mean, it brought back everything. And part of the reason is because he's starting to remember his childhood, and all these depressions are starting to come into him. He also was an alcoholic, and I didn't even know that. He quit drinking on his own, him and his wife, for 3 years. And then all of a sudden the depression and his, whatever he calls his memories, are coming back. And I have a lot to do with that. And so, we're talking today, and, you know, we're working on our relationship. So, but it's been a rough go.
Wow, it's quite a story.
Well, it is. Your life has been a real challenge for you, and I think you're seeing kind of the ripple effects of your childhood abuse and how that affected your life, and consequently the lives of your children. At the same time, there can be, and it sounds like there is, a ripple effect in the positive. You know, you've been able to keep your sobriety for 4 years, and that can have a positive effect on your family members and other people, including people you don't know yet, someone who you might teach them confidence in themselves by teaching them to sing, or being supportive and understanding to your son instead of giving in to feelings of guilt and depression of your own, knowing that you were the mother that contributed to a chaotic upbringing for this boy. However, you're now a mother who can contribute to stability and positivity and health. And so that's a wonderful example that you're sharing with our listeners today. I appreciate that.
And I think it's a good reminder that this disease is a family disease.
It really is a family disease, and it's a family disease genetically, we know biologically, but also emotionally. And it encourages each generation to unfortunately discover the disease for themselves unless healthy habits and healthy connections are made.
Somebody to break the chain.
Right.
And that's what I hope to be for my family. So, Lorie, I just want to say thank you for coming in and sharing such a tragic story, but with such a
Well, with a positive ending.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm so excited about my life. You know, I'm having some really neat things happen, and I'm finally following through with my singing and all the things that I've been wanting to do with that. I'm going to be turning in an audition for The Voice.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I've been on a couple of podcasts like this, you know, and I just want to keep reaching out and letting people know, men or women who are involved in abuse or alcohol, you always have a voice, and you can always reach out for help. There's always somebody there. I'm here. I would love to help people if they're in need of anything, you know, that I could do for them. That's part of what I want.
Do you continue to reach out? Do you work with a therapist or with groups? Are there things you're still doing?
I have a sponsor that I still work with. She's been there the entire time of my sobriety. That doesn't always happen, but her and I are complete opposites, but to this day, we're really good friends, and sometimes I actually turn into the sponsor for her because she's going through difficult times also. But yes, any chance that I get, I'm constantly, if anybody wants to find me, Lorie Warburton on Facebook, I'm giving tips for sobriety and things that I do. I also had an opportunity when I was living with my son to start going to church again. And I want to bring this up because I started off mentioning it. I didn't have a good outlook towards any type of religion or anything. I'm a very spiritual person. But my son and his wife were married in the temple and that. And so when I lived with them, I was able to go sit on the bench in there. And I honestly was being healed from the inside out on that bench in that church. My eyes were always leaking when I sat on the bench. I was not crying. But I felt a transformation happening that was absolutely undeniable and unbelievable. And that gave me courage and hope too. It's the spiritual side of things, you know, as well.
And it's a key component to your recovery. I do have to ask you, would you sing a little for us? Just a little something. If you don't have to, but if you're going to be on The Voice, there's 3 people here. We might turn our chairs for you.
Okay,
give us some.
Okay. Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. That's all I'm going to do. I'm nervous.
That was pretty good. There you go. Yeah.
Turning my chair.
I'll tell you what, you can be on Team Project Recovery anytime you want. Thank you for stopping by and sharing your story. We really do appreciate it. And don't forget, Project Recovery is a KSL podcast brought to you by useonlyasdirected.org with their 3-part solution: speak out, opt out, and throw out.
There you go.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.